Boxing truth here. Peter Quillin, another spoiled out Heyman fighter who's been greatly overpaid to fight strippers and to fight Danny Jacobs, even though those fights didn't provide the market or shouldn't have generated the type of purses Peter Quillin got for those fights. I mean, the guy ain't even that good. Barely qualified as a B-level fighter. I consider him B minus only because of his punching power. That's the only thing that's world class about him. Other than that, he's overrated. Has received a lot of exposure from the networks, and he ain't really that good. The guy's a very flawed fighter, very beatable fighter, and he was exposed in a number of his fights until finally taking that L to Danny Jacobs in less than a round. Peter Quillin gave an interview to Greg Leone. Remember him? The boxing talk guy who pretty much started advising a fighter, then ran the company of John Pascal. I don't know what the hell he's been doing ever since. But he's making a comeback with his site. He's done a number of interviews, and Peter Quillin was one of them. And Peter Quillin was talking shit about Gennady Golovkin, as he's another Al Heyman fighter that doesn't get it, who's been spoiled and overpaid, and expects to get this life-changing money to fight Golovkin when he himself doesn't bring jack shit to the table economically, doesn't bring anything in terms of his market. He's not a guy that's really a star. I mean, he gives good interviews. He's got some personality, but for whatever reason, he's one of many Heyman fighters that's just not getting that buzz for whatever reason. And one of the reasons is that he doesn't fight. He's been inactive this entire year. Doesn't look like he's gonna get a fight in this year, since I don't know, a lot of PBC fighters are been inactive this year for whatever reason. Perhaps the dwindling dates at PBC has something to do with it. And he's left his previous trainer, Eric Brown, and now he's hooked up with Virgil Hunter, and possibly plans to move up in weight when he comes back, most likely next year, to campaign at super middleweight. But he brought up something interesting about Golovkin, and then Greg Leone asked him, why do you think Golovkin can't get any meaningful fights in the middleweight division? And Quillin responded by saying that maybe it's tough to do business with Golovkin. And I wanted to see if Quillin will elaborate on his statement, and he did. Basically saying that he tried to do business with Golovkin before, and that it was too many obstacles because Golovkin has a contract with HBO, and Quillin is loyal to Showtime, even though Quillin doesn't have any contract with Showtime. Not that I'm aware of, because he's fought on other networks as well. He fought on NBC last year when he fought a stripper and got grossly overpaid to fight a stripper. 7-figure payday to fight a no-hoper in Safada. Ended up knocking him brutally out, and he was left on a stretcher. And he was saying that it's impossible to get life-changing money against Golovkin, that it's impossible to get $3 million to fight Golovkin. And this is the guy that a lot of people in boxing are saying is the biggest thing in boxing, so why can't he pay certain money to opponents? But this is the thing, man. Golovkin is one of the bigger stars in the sport, but he's still not at that level of a Floyd Mayweather in terms of the pay-per-view market. You can't really expect to get $3-4 million to fight Golovkin, especially if the fight is on regular HBO, which is what is being proposed for Golovkin and Jacobs. I knew that fight was going to have trouble getting made because they were going to put it on regular HBO. If the only way I felt that fight had a great chance of happening, I mean, maybe it could still happen, but Jacobs he has to come to reality that this is what he's going to be offered. And if he really wants to fight, he will just take what's offered to him. But for that fight to have a better chance of Jacobs taking the fight or having more comfortable with the money that's offered to him, the fight would have to be on pay-per-view. How do you expect to get $3 million to fight Golovkin on regular HBO? You can only get what the network offers you as a financial package. if the fight's not on pay-per-view, then it makes it difficult to get any more than what you're gonna get. There's only a financial package they offer you, and you either take it or leave it. There's no other money that's coming elsewhere. I mean, where else is more money gonna come from if the fight's not on pay-per-view? And this is what Quillin doesn't understand. If you want more than $3 million, you got to bring something else to the table, man. You got to bring a fan base. You got to be a draw. You got to be a star. You got to be a big name. And for whatever reason, Quillin is one of the many Heyman fighters that just doesn't have that buzz, that doesn't generate that buzz. And one of the reasons is that he doesn't fight enough. Hasn't fought at all this year. He's out of sight, out of mind. He ain't that good. That's another reason. He's been exposed before in fights. Even in the end-down fight, he was knocking the guy down, but was getting thoroughly outboxed in the rounds that he wasn't knocking him down. I mean, that's the thing. Cats barely got $3 million to fight Floyd Mayweather, and he was the biggest star in the sport, the biggest pay-per-view generator in America. And complete B-sides, which is what Quillin would be if he was to fight Golovkin, barely got $3 million to fight Floyd. Guerrero got a guaranteed purse of $3 million. Maidana's guaranteed purse was less than $3 million. His base pace for the fight against Floyd. Victor Ortiz. Those guys didn't get this huge payday to fight Floyd. They got their career high earnings, which is what I believe Jacobs is being offered to fight Golovkin, at least around within the 7-figure range for sure. But these guys don't want to take the fight because they know they can't beat him. If they knew they could beat Golovkin, they would take what's offered to them. But they want a cash-out payday to get knocked the fuck out by Gennady Golovkin. And right now, Golovkin can only pay what he can pay you, especially if the fight's going to be on regular HBO. If it's on pay-per-view, then you can expect a much bigger purse. But just shows you, man, how spoiled these Al Haymon fighters are. Overpaying them has created a lot of delusional fighters within Heyman's PBC stable. Guys expect $3-4 million purses when they don't bring shit to the table. I mean, look what Heyman's created with by overpaying his clients, and now these guys don't want to step up and take the fights that matter, the fights that could make them become bigger than what they are. These guys are just, they're not much right now. There's just potential opponents for Golovkin, but Golovkin, he's a star of the show at the middleweight division. But you can't expect to get $3 million to fight him on regular HBO. This ain't 1999, 2000 no more. Those days are gone. You got to be on pay-per-view to get out those type of paydays now. But it is what it is. Peter Quillin ain't doing shit right now. Has vacated the belt before. Avoided a career high purse in the past. And doesn't want to fight Golovkin unless he gets over $3 million. And doesn't bring jack shit to the table. Whatever, man. Another delusional Al Haymon fighter and Peter Quillin. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.